All right, y'all, so we are back with another episode in our relationship series. I hope you guys are enjoying thus far. Today we are talking about mental health and therapy.
Actually, this is like one of my favorite topics. I am super excited about this video. First off, I want to thank Pride Counseling for sponsoring this video. What they do is they actually provide affordable, private, online counseling specifically for the LGBTQ plus community. And that's super important because not only are as Black lesbians, we're a marginalized group on top of a marginalized group.
Right.
On top of a marginalized group. Sometimes you just need to talk to somebody.
Agreed. I mean, like you said, like in our times now, online, so that means you can actually have therapy from your phone, from your laptop, your iPad, like whatever.
It's super accessible.
You can actually go on pridecounseling.com/Jamilla and Que.
And from there, you can enter what you identify as, your pronouns, to get matched with a licensed therapist. All therapists have 3+ years of experience and over 2,000 hours of hand-on experience.
So you can't beat that, like, y'all.
No, you can't.
Look, we giving you the jewels, the gems, all of the above.
Use it.
Go.
What's crazy is that I was actually just having this conversation with my therapist, and we were discussing whether she was going to go back in person or stay online. And she thinks she's going to do a hybrid, but she said specifically about it being online, what she liked is that she felt like people's barriers were a little down.
Right. I can
see
that.
They felt like a little bit more comfortable because they weren't in person. And I can see that too.
Yes. So y'all, look, you got it. We gave it to you. Go do it. And if you guys do, go ahead and sign up for pridecounseling.com/Jamilla and Que. Let us know. You don't have to let us know in the comments, but you can come back and say, hey, thank you for the plug.
So also what's really great about this is that I recently polled our community on our Instagram on Jamilla and Que, and what a lot of people said was preventing them from going to therapy was actually finding a Black LGBTQ plus therapist and it being affordable. So for Pride Counseling to provide both of those, like really y'all, if you guys have thought about therapy, if you're on the fence, definitely click our link and check it out.
Yeah, I have to say I agree too. So I know I did a video maybe 2 years ago about me starting therapy due to my anxiety. So currently I'm no longer with that therapist. I actually have a new therapist. But anytime I'm looking for a therapist, I am narrowing down just to make sure that they are LGBTQ plus friendly, because you know you want to be aligned with your therapist. I do also prefer Black, and then I do also prefer a woman. So my therapist now, currently I've been going to her since October, I think. She's phenomenal. Like, there is a lot of accountability, which works for me because I think that's what I was missing in my last therapy. She's very real, and you know, we try to go back to find the root cause, because in order for you to understand some of your mental concepts, the way you think, the way you act, you have to find the root cause.
Absolutely.
And you know, a lot of it does stem from childhood, past experiences, relationships. So, you know, and not that you're discovering all bad things in therapy. So some people think like, oh, you only go into therapy because you have a problem or something.
Right.
In the beginning, you may have to run through those issues and like figure out the root cause of some of your mental issues or whatever you may have going on. But ultimately, like, it'll come to a point where it's a cleanse and it feels refreshing.
Oh my goodness, yes. I think the most breakthrough sessions I have is when I'm going into the session thinking like, oh, I have nothing to talk about. I think I'm pretty good. And then it's like a little thread, and my therapist, like, I can see that her eyebrow go up or her facial expression. I know I just said something that we're about to dive into, which is a good point. Some people have gone to a therapist before and they didn't like their therapist, which I'm glad you brought up that you've had multiple therapists, because sometimes the person that you meet isn't a good fit. Like maybe we've had couples therapy, and the therapist that we had right before we got married, it was just almost like a homegirl. Like when I would talk to my friends, and I do want to say this because I think our audience is such a great diversity, especially with ages, that we do have some people who are thinking like, oh, what happens in the house stays in the house, you don't need to talk about it. But when I look at all of my friends and all of our friends, almost everyone has a therapist. It's like what you do now, like you go to your car, you go get your car maintenance, we have to get our mind and our emotions maintenance, and it's no problem. Like, it's something that we all talk about openly. So I had a friend, she was telling me about her couples therapy and about how they had worksheets and how they had homework, and that like blew my mind, because our first therapist for couples therapy.
Never.
No, she was like, I don't know why y'all are here. I think she said that to us.
Yeah, she was like, y'all good. Like, yeah, y'all good. But yeah, like it's very important to find the correct therapist. So it is okay to hire and fire therapists. Like do what you have to do because your mental health is at stake, and you know you want to make sure that this person is valuable to your life.
It's good to interview therapists. One of my other friends also, so what she's been doing with therapists is honest. What's when you have like a session before?
A consultation?
Yeah, she has consultations with her therapist, which I think is awesome. So asking them what's your communication style? How often can I reach you? I didn't know my therapist recently just told me that if I need like an emergency session, I can reach out to her and she can see if she can fit me in. We've also had another one of our friends where he could text his therapist. Yes. So it's just awesome the amount of ways that we have access to get help.
And what I like the most about Jamilla and I, we're both on 2 different therapy journeys. Ultimately, in my journey, she will be pulled in towards the end because I am just working on, you know, just some internal battle.
You have more of like an intimacy journey?
Yes, intimacy. There's some, like, to be completely transparent, like what is it called? Like when you like, I lack this all the time.
Affection?
Yeah, so like affection, because I didn't have much like affection. So like I want to make sure that I am, because I don't have a problem with affection, but I just want to make sure that I can find and dig deep to make it flow more naturally, because I'm always overthinking it.
Because you think I'm an affectionate person.
Very. You're rubbing my thigh right now.
So my journey, I think mine has been a very much parental. So like me learning myself as a parent, because Harper Avery, when she was born, I went through a slight depression when she was born and had extreme anxiety when Holland was born. So when Harper was born, I had to mourn like my life, my pre-life before kids. Like I can't just get up and go out and go for brunch. No, you can't. And I just wanted to be the best person I could be, because I didn't want to pass anything on to Harper. So that was really like my motivating was Harper. And then when I had Holland, it was the anxiety was so overwhelming, was so crushing to me, was so like immobilizing. Is that the word? Like it was just, it was uncontrollable, and I wasn't used to not being able to control my emotions. So I knew I had to go to therapy for that. And then I ended up talking about my parents a lot.
But what is so crazy, like just you saying it, like I'm just finally hearing this, like, so when I first started my therapy journey was because the anxiety after having Harper.
Yeah.
And then now I'm going through like the morning of my life after having both kids. Like,
so we flip
because like now I'm like, I want to have a life, I want to be able to go out, I want to do this, I need to find me. Like, so you know, my therapist is always telling me like, it's okay to do what you want to, like, if you need a moment, go have a moment. If you need to go out of town by yourself, go out of town. And you have to find things to make you feel like you again.
No, absolutely. Because I think with you dove head first into motherhood and was like consumed in motherhood. For me, like I had a very strong career, corporate life, and then motherhood. So for me, like when she dove into motherhood, I was like, hey, I'm here. I'm still here. And so I think because I've kind of always put myself first in that regard, because I know if I'm not full, I can't fill anybody else. So I've never lost myself in motherhood. So that's why our journeys are like so different.
Right. So now here I am with 2 kids trying to figure out how I can go hang out with my wing out when I want to.
Like she's like, I just want to be out. And I'm like, girl, you don't sit down in this bed and watch this movie. But no, it's so important for her, like especially in this time, because it's important that we understand that we do go through phases and that we do change. And so what we do is we respect each other's growth and each other's change. And I think that's why it's really good why we go to separate therapists. Because what's so funny is that, and I've been in therapy a little over a year. I had a couple months break. But really, we don't really talk about you too much, like in my therapy sessions. Like it doesn't come up because I try to be very honest with Sequina. And even like in times where I'm like, you're overreacting. You shouldn't say it. You shouldn't say it. You shouldn't say it. As soon as I see her, I'm like, you left the spoon in the sink again.
No, honestly, I think it's like communication has like helped us gain like the longevity that we have, simply because like we've been a decade in, y'all. Like we are not the same people we were even a year ago. So just to think, when we met each other, if I was holding her to the standard like, oh, when I first met you, you were this way. Like only way we have been able to progress is to acknowledge that you have changed, speak about the change, understand how you now want to be treated. Like even things like, because I even think like for me personally, throughout the years, especially after having a baby, I've tapped into my femininity more. Like I fully identify as masculine presenting, but I embrace my feminine side. Like, you know, if I see Jamilla in a nice Skims 2-piece, I'm like, girl, get me one next time.
But you bring up a really good point that thinking about therapy, especially in our community, not only like as people does society tell us how to act, as women, as black people, then as gay people, we have these whole ideas of like how we should show up in a relationship, how we should show up to our parents, how we need to mother our children or parent our children, that sometimes it's okay to talk to a therapist, especially an LGBTQ plus therapist who understands that, who specializes in that, where they can really help you break down where did those thoughts first come from and how are they kind of like popping up in your life.
And I personally don't know I know my therapist's pronouns, but I don't know what her sexuality is. But I can tell she's very versed. Like, she's very versed. She's very...
What's versed mean?
Like she understands the community. She's not into gender norms. Like, she understands, like, you know, how people identify their gender identity and sexuality. Like, she is very well educated on the breakdown that our conversations can go from A to B, and we're still on the same path. It's not like... I haven't taught her much outside of like me, because I think my last therapist is like some things like she said she was LGBT friendly, but I don't think she understood some of the things that, you know, that happen within the community. But my therapist now, again, I don't know if she is or not, but you know, I feel like she's very educated.
I like that, because the last thing you want to do is like if you're crying about something and you're singing, and then I just feel like a dom, and they're like, wait. What does that mean? You're like, dang, so not only do I have to, like, you're helping me, like, cross bridges with my feelings, I have to, like, then break down my terminology and how nuanced that is. Like, that's just a whole nother journey to have to go through.
And one other plug that I want to do, if you guys do decide to get on the therapy journey, or if you're already on, just make sure that you show up as yourself authentically. I know for a second in my first 2 sessions, like, she was calling me Sequina, but... like, I couldn't tap into Sequina. Like, I needed her to call me Q. And that sense of Q, when she started calling me Q, I felt like I broke down. Because it was more of a, like, it's familiar. Like, most people who know me, I kick it with, they call me Q. So then it kind of felt different when we were coming from, she's like, when she says, hey, Q, versus like the hey, Sequina. Sequina's like work. Sequina's like, I mean, you call me Sequina, but Sequina's like a work fine. So I put up all these boxes.
Oh, okay. So I was trying to understand, like, because I would think it would be like the opposite, but Sequina is like a very work,
like, you know, very professional, as in Q. It's like, okay, now let's talk about it. Let's get down to it. I feel comfortable. Like, I feel like I could talk to you like a homegirl therapist.
Do you cuss in front of her?
I did for the first time, maybe like 2 times. I had to hear it from her first, but she's young too, so that's another thing. Like, I think we're probably the same age.
So then that helps, because that's not something that I've thought about, but like age, it's all these different factors that you think about. And so a lot of people just think like therapy's not accessible to them. They don't realize that you can filter down all the way that you want, like, for the person to identify, because ultimately it does help you to talk to someone who looks like you in some instances.
Agreed.
Yeah. So guys, make sure again that you check out our link in the description box. Go to pridecounseling.com /
it's slash, but
backslash.
No, don't try to find the backslash. It's pridecounseling.com / Jamilla and Que, and that's JAMILLAANDQUE.
Again, we want to thank them so much for sponsoring this video. And really, honestly, I think for us, we just wanted to show up for everyone, for the community, and just be honest and transparent about our therapy journeys and what we're talking about, because we're hoping that the more we talk about it, the more we can normalize it, and so it's not such a taboo topic, and that people don't feel ashamed or feel any type of like what's the word I'm looking for, that they don't feel ashamed if they do have to go and talk to someone. It's perfectly normal. We all do it, go through it. I'm keeping my therapist.
Girl, it might be like a new qualification for friends. Have you been, or are you currently in therapy?
Absolutely. Definitely.
If you have not, go to a consultation, and then we can come back and see if you and I can be friends in our consultation.
No, that's what I'm going to start. You want to be my friend? Go to this link and set up a session.
All right, y'all. Later.
All right, bye.